exploring the bizarre. Your e-ticket ride into the world of the paranormal. Strap yourself in as we traverse the universe exploring the unexplained. UFOs, ghosts, lost worlds, cryptozoology, as well as other dimensions. It's time to take back the night. Now, your electrifying hosts of Exploring the Bizarre, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
This is Exploring the Bizarre. I'm Tim Swartz, and unfortunately, my friend and co-host, Tim Beckley, will not be with us tonight. I'm not quite sure where he is. Rumor has it that he's off to Rachel, Nevada to try to get an early jump to take a look at them aliens. Or it could be that he got accidentally locked into the basement and can't find the key. Whatever the case, next week I'm sure that he'll be back if the CIA lets him go, or if somebody finds that key. But anyway, we'll just go on without Tim Beckley tonight because we have an absolutely fantastic guest, and I'm really excited that Denise could be with us tonight. So let me do a little introduction. Tonight we have Denise Pridemore. Now, Denise is originally from Baltimore and lived in Virginia, New Jersey, Arkansas, Missouri, and finally settled in eastern Kansas. She's been having paranormal experiences since her earliest memories, and she has a lifetime of experiences, paranormal, intuitive, and real life. She's been seeking answers to the paranormal since she can remember, but recalls a time, I do as well, when talking about the paranormal, premonitions, and supernatural phenomena was considered taboo. Now, Denise started Pridemore Paranormal in 2009, and along with her husband, became volunteer tour guides in 2011 for the infamous Sally, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Sally House in Kansas. Now, due to the experiences Denise has had at the Sally House, she was asked to appear on the show Ghost Adventures, where she was asked to give the crew a tour of the Sally House. And she says that was a very interesting experience and has brought her some local and national popularity. Denise and her husband are now volunteers for the beautiful McPike Mansion in Alton, Illinois, and she's working on many paranormal projects, including her weekly radio show, The Paranormal Pride. And Denise is also going to be talking to us tonight about the upcoming SpookShowCon starting on August 17th in Dekalb, Illinois. So, Denise, thanks for being with me tonight on Exploring the Bizarre.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited, and I sound so interesting.
Well, you are.
Well,
we wouldn't have you on our show if you weren't.
It's like, wow, that sounds good. I should have you write the bio for the book that I was in. I was like, wow, this is great. But it's always interesting to hear somebody else talk about you and like, really? I did that? Yeah, I did. Because a lot of the stuff that I talk about seemed like it was so long ago now, it doesn't even seem that important. But, and when I say Ghost Adventures was an interesting experience, it was. I mean, yeah, don't knock it till you try it, but it was interesting. And would I do it again? Yeah, I would, but I think I'd leave my last name off. That's the only thing I think I really regret is my last name being on there. The messages that I get are odd.
Oh, so,
yeah. And I'm not going to go into those because they could get me in a lot of trouble. But they are very odd. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have met so many really nice people. So that was the best part about all of that. And and thank you, Sally House, for that. It got worse after Ghost Adventures, but everything gets worse after Ghost Adventures. So
yeah, I've heard other people say that.
And I don't know why that is, but I don't know if it was the popularity or the negativity or all the people coming there after that. I mean, not that there wasn't a lot of people coming before that, because there was, But for me personally, it got worse, and I have some theories on that, but not sure exactly how much people want to hear about what those theories are as to why it got worse and why it got better. So at some point it got better, and that's a whole other entity in itself. So
Well, we really need to get into that, but I first want to, and we'll talk about this a little bit more complete later on in the show. But right here at the top of the show, why don't you tell us, just give us a synopsis of what SpookShowCon is that's coming up this weekend?
yeah, SpookShowCon is going to be, well, this is my first year being involved with it as the co-host. So I'm the co-host and the MC, which for me is different. Normally I'm the one, I'm walking around just getting to know everybody. This time I know almost everybody, so that's helpful. We have really good guests that are going to be coming in and speaking, and I'm going to describe it more like a family. All of us know each other, and so it's going to be really easy, and it's family without the infighting. So that's the nice part too.
Nice.
So we're doing it all at the Red Roof Inn in Dekalb, so everybody can come and stay at the Red Roof Inn, and we just go downstairs, have a good time, and it's only $20, so it's pretty good. But our guest speakers are Mike Ricksecker from Haunted Road Media, and Kelly McCarville, Vanessa Hogel, Ursula Bilski from Chicago Haunted Tours. She owns Chicago when it comes to haunted tours.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get any better than that. We got Frank Bennett, who's a really good friend of mine, and he's going to be talking about cryptozoology and the paranormal, and he's going to be bringing his books. We got Coyote Chris Sutton, who is also a volunteer at the McPike Mansion along with my husband and myself. We got Ghost Crier. They're big on Vidi Space, and I don't know how I'm going to rein them in. I don't know if I have a lasso big enough to keep control of those two guys. And then we got Rick Wade. I haven't met him personally yet, so tomorrow is going to be the first time I meet him. Yes, the event's Saturday, but I'm meeting him tomorrow. And funny thing about Rick Wade is that my mother's family and his family knew each other from back in the day through Bluegrass. So when we got to know each other a little bit more, we found out that our families knew each other. So, and we also have Willie Atkins, who's big into independent films, as well as Tom McNicholas, who is the host of it. And so there's all of that, and there's a lot of dark arts kind of type stuff in there, and it's, like I said, I don't know everything. That's what's really great about this. We've got all kinds of different vendors, things that I never even thought about having at a paranormal show, because it's not all paranormal. When I think about going to these conferences, I'm thinking paranormal. Tom, on the other hand, had this show set up before, and they were doing films and all that, but the venue was too small for the films to be brought in. So next year there will be films. There will be the film fest to go along with it. And then we have an investigation at the last, not one of, it is the last Egyptian theater east of the Mississippi River. There's not very many west of the Mississippi now either, but this is the last Egyptian theater that's still in operation east of the Mississippi River. And we're, so that's going to be interesting. And I know that there's videos out there from people who have investigated this place. Willie actually filmed a couple movies at this location. I know nothing about it. I go into locations cold. I don't want to know anything. I'm already having visits from spirits telling me stuff. I don't know which place it's from, because I hear that the Red Roof Inn is also haunted. So do I know where these spirits are from? No, I don't. But they always say theaters are haunted, so that's going to be interesting. So this will be the first theater. No, it's the second theater that we've investigated. So that's going to be fun for us. And we're Ron and I are two of the lead investigators for the guests that are coming through. So that's going to be fun. So I'm just stoked for that part of it, to try to, hey, we're going in, we're going to check it out. And then the next night we're going to show everybody, hey, these are the places that we had stuff happen last night and all that. So hopefully everybody will have a good time.
And what's the website for SpookShowCon?
Spook Show. It's SpookShowCon.com.
Oh, that's easy.
Tickets are $20. So if you're in the Chicago area or not too far from there, $20 for the day, and the investigation is $50. We don't have any control over the cost of the investigation because the theater set the price on that. And and just so you guys know, if you decide to do the investigation, it's a 5013C, so it is tax deductible.
I didn't know that could be tax deductible.
Well, because of the fact that it's a charity.
Oh, okay.
So every trip that I take is tax deductible because I'm doing something that's related to either my business or it's related to charity. So I make sure that I do something that's related to my business or related to charity, so that I can at least write off something. It's not like you get a big, huge discount on your taxes, but at least I can say, hey, I did this, like when I go to McPike Mansion, at least I know that it's for charity, and I can write off some of it. Although McPike Mansion is not a 5013C. That's the bad part. But you know what I mean? There's I can write off part of it because it's business.
Right.
So people need to keep that in mind. If they're really wanting to go, the Egyptian Theater is a 5013C. Okay. So that's important. If you have a radio show, you might be able to write off the rest of the trip too. As business. So, but it's fun to go and hang out with people that you like. And in this case, every person in the list of the lineup that we have, I really like. We also have one of our vendors is Becky from Silcon, Becky Castile. So she's going to be there. She's going to be doing some Reiki and massage. She's bringing her massage table. So hey, that's going to help. And we're going to have the guys from PRI that's over in Utica, Illinois.
Right.
I don't know if you know any of them, but that's Dan Williams and his team. And PRI is Paranormal Research Institute. They're working on this really interesting random number generator with Mike Nichols here in Kansas City. That's basically they're finding a way to relate using this random number generator and relating it to paranormal incidences. And it's coming back really interesting. So anybody that's really into random number generators or scientifically proving paranormal, Mike Nichols is a really great guy to talk to. He teaches parapsychology here in Kansas City. And I think at UMKC. Yeah, my husband just validated in UMKC. So it's really kind of interesting to hear about this random number generator, and they were just here for the Kansas City Paracon and investigated some really interesting places and got some validation with that. So it's going to be interesting to see who all we have show up at the event, and hopefully even Ron from Paranormal Cops may show up. He said he might. So I don't know if you remember that show, Paranormal Cops, from like 9 years ago.
Oh yeah.
He was just on Paranormal Emergency episode 2.
Seems like anymore that there's so many different reality shows, like you said, Paranormal Cops, Paranormal whatever, Paranormal Pets. It's
well, on Animal Planet there was.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I mean, and you had like the gosh, I can't remember what channel it was on, but it was like the Ghost Hunters in Bikinis or something along those lines. I mean,
well, I don't know. I got that email that they wanted people that would ghost hunt naked. And I'm like,
oh no,
I don't think so. Nobody would watch that.
No,
well, actually, somebody might, but I know I wouldn't. But yeah,
well, that takes on a whole new meaning for naked and afraid.
Yeah. No, there ain't no way. It's just there's a few too many things going on there that new and different, I'm all for, but not that new and different.
Yeah, that's just pushing it a little bit. Okay, well now in your bio, you talk about having paranormal experiences since your earliest memories. Now, why don't you talk a little about that? Because, I mean, we're always interested. I mean, it seems like everybody that I talk to who is interested in this kind of stuff, myself included, usually ends up having had some kind of unusual experiences. Sometimes just, one or two. Sometimes it's throughout their entire childhood. If it's, like kind of a bizarre experiences. Now, what about yourself?
Mine was out of body experiences.
Hmm.
So, like when I was 4, I told my parents that I saw my grandfather kill my grandmother. Yeah, and my parents.
That had to go over well.
No, it didn't, because I was 4, and they go, no, Grandma and Grandpa were in a car accident, and Grandma just died in the car accident. And I was like, no, he turned her neck. I was 4, and I kept telling them that, and they go, no, that's not what happened. She died in the car accident. And I said, no, he turned her neck. And they, didn't listen to me. And so it's like, okay, whatever, eventually I stopped talking about it. And then when I was 10, I had an out-of-body experience again and witnessed my grandfather kill my father. And when I got up the next morning, my mother and my dad's girlfriend, I know, strange, were sitting at the kitchen table. And of course, I didn't find anything odd about it, which is really fine. I find odd now. I don't find anything odd about that. But I walk out there and I go, and I tell my mom that dad's dead, and how, and who, what, when, where, and why, and actually tell my mother my dad's last words, which my dad's girlfriend neglected to tell my mother. And my mom at that point pulled me aside and said, you can't tell people this stuff, because if you do, they're going to think you're crazy. And so throughout my dad's whole funeral and stuff, I saw him, things like that. And at this point in my life, we were, I knew I saw stuff, but I knew I couldn't tell. And I went, basically I just went about my business and just, okay, well, make strange faces and people just think you're funny, so, no, I can't go with you. You're not real. I can't say that, but, and I told Ron, I said, I went to Gettysburg in 77. And I said, I saw these ghost children, and, I didn't know that they were really ghosts. I just saw them, and they wanted me to come with them, and I couldn't leave the kids that I was with. The teacher would have been a little bit irritated with me should I have walked away from the group. So if I had walked away from the group, they'd have gone, what's going on? And if I'd have said, hey, those kids want me to go with them, and nobody else saw them, how do you explain that?
Right.
Same as seeing spirits at the White House or the Capitol building or, Smithsonian. Basically I just kind of kept my mouth shut and kept on going,
Well, now, how can you tell the difference, though, between spirits and the living? Because, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who have had experiences seeing ghosts, and some of them, I mean, it's kind of the traditional, the spirits are transparent or glowing in the dark. Other times the spirits look as solid and as real as say your husband's sitting next to you right now. That's true.
I think it just depends on how much energy the spirit's putting out. But there have been times where I've seen a spirit that's, I swear, is as solid as him, and other times it's like, I know you're a spirit. And and like I said, other times I've actually followed somebody thinking that they were real and had a conversation, and then suddenly they disappear. So, and actually a couple of those times were while we were on vacation, and Ron was with me going, who in the heck were you talking to? He walks up on me and he's concerned as to who I'm talking to, because, I don't know anybody where we're at, but of course I've never met a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
At least no one's stranger than myself. So it all works out, but it's just, that's how how it is,
Mm-hmm.
It just, but there are times when I see a spirit manifest, and it starts out looking more like what somebody would call a shadow person
Mm-hmm.
until it fully manifests. So there are times when when somebody says it's a shadow person, I'm sitting there going, maybe it just doesn't have enough energy to fully get to what it needs to be, because in my case, I've had dark experiences with things that can't fully manifest, and I've had things that were able to manifest, and no, it's not bad. So so far I can't tell you 100% for certain that a shadow person is a bad thing.
Right.
Same as these hat men.
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen anything with a top hat except for at the White House. I saw something that I swear was Abraham Lincoln, but that made sense there. I've seen a guy with a flat hat. I've seen a guy with a baseball hat. I've seen a guy with a bowler hat. I've never seen a guy with a top hat. So it's like, so are we all seeing the same guy, or are they all different?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of laugh at some of the things, and maybe I'm unusual. Maybe I'm overthinking, or maybe I'm not thinking. So.
What about anybody else in your family? The same way. Have these abilities, because usually being able to see spirits, or have ESP or other types of abilities tends to run in families.
Yes, my great grandmother was Blackfoot,
Mm-hmm.
and so she had it. My great great grandmother, my great grandmother, my grandmother and my mother did not, and then at least two of my children, do. So.
And how did you explain to your children? I mean, did they come to you, early on and say, "Hey, I see, so somebody's standing there in the corner."
Oh yes, and they usually tell them, "Go upstairs and see my mom."
Mm-hmm.
so
yeah, thank you.
yeah. Luckily my youngest is now 20,
Mm-hmm.
so they know what to do at this point. But when they were younger, it tended to be a lot of issues, and I ended up having to go sleep in their rooms a lot. So it just ended up being that I had to learn how to take care of more than when I had to clean house. I had to clean house.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we're coming up on the minute mark before we go to our bottom of the hour break. When we come back, we will continue our conversation with Denise and her paranormal experiences right here on Exploring the Bizarre. So stay tuned, because it's going to get good.
Now back to Exploring the Bizarre with two of the most electrifying researchers in the paranormal, your hosts, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
Welcome back to Exploring the Bizarre. I'm Tim Swartz. Tonight we're talking with Denise Pridemore. And so, Denise, why don't you tell me about Pridemore Paranormal? You said you started that in 2009 along with your husband.
Well, technically, yeah. I mean, if you wanted to go back, it's a really strange story. We were, we really didn't know that we both liked the paranormal stuff until later on in our marriage. Which is strange. I mean, when you think about it, we didn't really talk about it. And so we were watching TV one day, and we were, saw McPike Mansion on there, and I was like, okay. And I said, I'd really like to go there. I said, you've been to, Ron's from Florissant, Missouri, which is right across the river. I said, you know where Alton is? I said, have you ever been there? And he goes, yeah, I've been to Alton. I said, no, McPike Mansion. Do you know where it is? He goes, no. I said, I know you've been to Alton. He worked over, would have to go over there to work and things like that. He goes, I don't know where it is. So, we went over there and was like, okay, this is kind of neat. And we went on Troy Taylor's walking tour. I have to say, that was a really good tour. We really enjoyed it. And about a couple weeks later, we had a family reunion in Stanton, Iowa. Okay. We had seen on TV years before the Villisca Axe Murder House.
Right.
And, okay, so all these places we've seen on TV, the Sally House, Villisca, McPike, never thought anything of it. So on our way to this family reunion, we were going through Clarinda, Iowa, and I just happened to look over at Ron. I said, I wonder where Villisca, Iowa is. He goes, I don't know. He goes, it's got to be in the more northern part. He goes, because my family would have talked about it if it was close by, because we were always looking to get into that kind of stuff. We would have went over there, turned the corner, Villisca, 9 miles. Okay, Stanton's like 8-9 miles from there. Okay, and his mom grew up in a place called Red Oak, which is like 17 miles from Villisca. Okay, so I look at him, he looks at me, and we go, we got to drive by. So if nothing else, we were going to drive by and get a picture and find out how we would be able to, if we could check it out on Sunday on our way back. So we drive by and I get this really neat picture. Not paranormal, but really neat. I had this really old, I had a BlackBerry phone, no flash, no really slow shutter speed.
Oh, I remember those.
Yeah, and a lightning bug flew by. So this lightning bug got in there. So it has this, what everybody wanted to say was a vortex, but it was a lightning bug. But like I said, it looked really neat. Everybody wanted to say it was paranormal. So I just kind of laughed and just left it at that. So we go to the family reunion the next day and I go, look at where we're going on Sunday. And his mom, everybody looks at me. Ron, I got to tell you something. And it's like, it's not like we hadn't had a conversation like this before where Denise has found out something about the family that they didn't want to tell us or hadn't planned on telling us. And they pull us aside and go, we need to tell you something. I was like, okay, what is it? Well, the sheriff in that investigation was your great uncle, Ron. What? Yeah, Orrin Jackson was Grandma Jackson's brother.
Huh.
And she goes on, the Jackson who married a Jackson. Yeah, well, that's her brother. And so, like, huh. And he wasn't really proud of how that turned out. He was upset that he was never able to solve that crime.
Right.
And I was like, well, it's not his fault. I said there were 20 other murders, at least, maybe even 92 other murders. If you go back in time, back to 1898, depending upon how far you go back, that weren't solved in the same manner. So why should he feel bad that he wasn't able to do what a whole lot of other people weren't able to do either? So let's think about this. And so, so it's not that big of a deal. But the thing is when we went in there on that following Sunday, we met Darwin Lynn, the guy who opened the Villisca Axe Murder House up. We told him what we knew, and he was so excited. He was like, let me get you this picture. Here's this picture of Orrin Jackson with the axe at one of the trials. And here's this and it's like, and of course we got our daughters with us and we have, pictures of our daughters with this memorabilia and stuff. And, Johnny Hauser's all excited too, because, there hadn't been anybody from the Jackson family there ever that anybody knew of. Mm-hmm. And we had found out that none of the family had been there. So we were the first ones from that family to been there, the sheriff's family. And so we were being treated really nice. Well, the thing is we were having paranormal experiences too. Our daughter, our second youngest daughter, saw a full body apparition walk by her from the upstairs, from the attic to the parents' bedroom. Mm-hmm. And you know, she to this day, she's not been back.
Really?
Yeah, she's not been back. It affected her.
Huh.
And every time we go there Ron swears for 2 weeks, I'm affected because I'm either channeling the mother or something. I think I'm channeling the mother because I'm really irritated about the fact that she wasn't able to, that somebody hurt her kids.
Right.
You know, and I have researched this crime so many times, and a new book came out in 2017 that changes the way I'm looking at it. I need to read this book. I just found out about it this past week, and it's called The Man from the Train. And I just found out about it because I took Ron to the Paola Axe murder house, which we're getting off subject, but the Paola Axe murder house is 17 miles from our house. And that murder is related, and it happened 4 days before the Villisca Axe murders. And Ron had never been there. So, and it's just, like I said, down the street from here.
I started to say, are they close to tracks or train stations?
Yes, they are. All of these murders happen by train tracks, not too far from them. But you know that, like I said, that's a whole other show too.
Right?
But,
yeah, it is.
So after we were done with that, we decided then that we wanted to try our hand at paranormal investigating.
Right.
After the very first time we went to Villisca. And that's when we started diving into some of the local haunts. You know, we went to the Sally House. We went back to McPike Mansion and did a tour there, and we went to their camp out. And so at this point, you know, we had seen on TV when our kids were really little. I mean, when I say really little, in the middle of the night, these shows were on TV. Mm-hmm. So in the middle of the night, I would get up and I'd have to nurse the kids. So like in 1994 was the first time I had seen these shows, you know, a haunting, sightings on replay, a ghost story, not a ghost story. Ghost Stories was one of the shows, and there, you know, we got a videotape. It was like 6 videotapes of ghost stories, and these shows were all in there. And we would sit there and watch them. And the three first ones I saw was the Sally House, Villisca, and McPike. And at this point, you know, in my life, I'm now on, you know, I know all those places. I know all their histories very well. But some of the key things that people don't know is like the Villisca Axe murder house and the Sally House have the same address.
Really?
You know, yeah. What are the odds of that?
Yeah.
The McPike family in Alton, Illinois, the guy who built that house, his brother ended up in Atchison, Kansas, where the Sally House is, and his children played with the kids that lived in the Sally House.
Huh.
What are the odds of that?
That is, yeah, it's kind of beyond coincidence, isn't it?
Right. So it's just very odd that all of these things are interrelated, and that I mean, it's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. You know, how can I put all these places together? I mean, we can put it together these days just by who's been there, right. But this isn't even related to who's been there. This is just related to back in, 1898. Here I can relate this back to 1898 just between these two places, between Kansas City, Atchison, Kansas, and Alton, Illinois. What are the odds of that? Mm-hmm. The Villisca Axe murder house, I can relate to family. So that's a little bit different, but it's just kind of odd that we can do that. But there's, I can't do that with every place. I mean, when I went to the Pioneer Saloon, I can't relate that to anything that I knew about other than, hey, I've seen 5 different shows that this place has been on. That was it. So.
Well, what about the Sally House? Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about it and the type of activity that's taking place there?
Well, I can tell you that the type of activity that took place there that got it famous was back in 1993 to 1994, about 18-month period there. So a family lived there called the Pickmans. And during that time, they had a lot of strange activity that ended up getting them on TV for a show called Sightings.
I remember Sightings, yeah.
Yeah, Tony Pickman got actually attacked on live TV. He was scratched by a spirit.
I remember that. Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. All right, go on.
Right. So they got paranormal famous from that, and Deb wrote a book about it that came out in 2010. And the thing is the book doesn't encompass everything because the book would have been a whole lot bigger and a lot more expensive than it was. So there's another book that's coming out, is what she told me. I did not meet her until 2015. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I did not meet her when they did Ghost Adventures because we were separated. That was in 2014, so I met her in 2015. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to tell you guys, if you read The Sally House, A True Haunting, I witnessed a lot of things in that house, so I cannot discount anything that they said that happened. Okay. Mm-hmm. There are some things in that book that are very disturbing. I'm not going to tell you what they are, only because they are that disturbing. Mm. That happened because spirits got into a demonic spirit got into Tony's mind and was manipulating him. Mm. So when he says on air that he thought the spirit was trying to make him kill his wife, mm-hmm. I believe that he felt like that because you can tell since he's been out of that house how much he loves his wife. He looks at her in such an adoring way all the time. So that's one of the things that we do know. Historically speaking, there is not a lot of written information on the house unless you do a deep dive of research, mm-hmm. which I have done. I have over 1,000 pages of research on that house that at one time I was so obsessed with that house that I would spend hours every week researching that house, researching the people who lived in that house. And I can tell you, I can sit here and talk to you all night about it. But again, there's people out there that want that information so bad that I would feel bad. Actually, I would be irritated as anything if somebody took that information and used it without my permission. That's right. The only thing. But I can tell you where the people lived before they built the Sally House. I can dispel all rumors as to how many doctors lived in the house, where the doctor lived, that there was no Sally. I can tell you that for a fact. If there was a Sally, she was not a little girl. There was a lady named Sally, but she was a woman, and she lived, it's strange, she had 2 obituaries. One that was 2 blocks away from the house where the house was built, and another one that was 7 blocks away from where they lived. So which one was it? Mm-hmm. And she was an African-American woman. I can tell you that there are 3 or 4 different urban legends about the house, and none of them are true. Mm-hmm. One of them is that a little girl died from a botched appendectomy in that house. Well, they started keeping death records around 1905. And they say that this happened between 1905 and 1907. Well, there's no death records for anyone named Sally. Sally was also a nickname. But I cannot find a death record for anyone who died of a botched appendectomy with this doctor's name, Dr. Charles Finney, C.C. Finney, as their doctor, because he would have been the attending physician regardless. There isn't one. So where did this information come from? A haunting had it that there was a doctor that lived in the house that had an affair with an African-American woman, and that they had a child that died from pneumonia. This was the story that came to light with a famous psychic involved. And the thing is the doctor was married. Mm-hmm. And they had a son. His name was Dr. Charles Finney as well, eventually. And the other fact that people don't seem to know is that when all this happened, this doctor, Dr. Charles Finney, that supposedly did this botched appendectomy and had this affair, actually lived in the house next door, didn't actually live in the Sally house.
Huh.
And here's the kicker. If this had happened, just keep this in mind, just use logic. If this had happened, that somebody had killed your kid, okay, let's just say that the appendectomy did happen, or could have happened. If somebody had killed your kid and nothing ever was said about it, when they ran for mayor in 1913, don't you think that would have come out in the newspaper?
Oh, yeah.
That they would have been screaming it from the rooftops that this guy's a lousy doctor, when there was nothing in the papers saying anything negative about this guy. So he's talking about how he saved this person and how he did this and how he did this. All these positive things, never anything negative about this guy. How in the world did that happen? Was he elected mayor of this town, but yet this never came out? So I don't know. It just seems kind of odd. And the only reason he wasn't mayor for any longer than he was because Prohibition started in Kansas a long time before everybody else and ended a long time after. And his wife's family was brewers, and he was providing beer to the Eagles Club. So he got in trouble for providing beer. And then he was asked to run for mayor again, and he lost in 1916, even though he had just stepped down. So I don't know. How in the heck did the guy who delivered all these kids in town, and another strange thing, in Kansas, women could vote in mayoral elections, and he was voted in by all the women. So, okay, women talk.
Oh, yeah.
So if it had happened, the woman would have said, hey, he killed my kid. So just logically speaking, it couldn't have happened. So just having the fact that there was no death certificate, that right there is part of it. But the second part is when he ran for mayor, that would have come out anyway, especially when all the dirt slinging going on in the state of Kansas, where a lot of it is highly Republican, and he was a Democrat.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he lived across the street from the governor.
So what about your own experiences in the house? I mean, someplace like that had the type of activity that I remember seeing on sightings. That had to have continued on for quite a while.
Well, some of the rumors were that only men were attacked, and that was not true.
Right.
What got me on Ghost Adventures was that one of the spirits in the house apparently wanted me to tell the truth, wanted me to do this research. So when I first went in there, I started getting bruises on my arms. I would have handprints on my arms when we would leave. Ron would look me over, there'd be nothing, and then suddenly there would be handprints on my arms. And so then after Ghost Adventures came, I started getting scratched. I mean, almost instantly. Just before?
No, before.
Oh, before. So before that, I started getting scratched, apparently. And then I had fold-up chairs thrown across the basement at me. Not once, but twice. I had my hair pulled. During the eclipse, we were in the house for a filming of a movie, and I was pushed down the stairs. There was all kinds of things that happened to me in that house.
And you kept going back.
Yeah, I did. Because of the fact, like I said, I was obsessed.
Right.
There was a reason that I needed to be there, and there was no convincing me otherwise. If Ron couldn't go with me, I still went. Every week that we did tours, I had to be there. If somebody called me and said, Denise, can you come up here and do a tour? I was saying yes. Even if I had to miss work, I would go. And yeah, I was a volunteer. I wasn't getting paid. We lived 90 minutes from Atchison. So I was driving up there, me and Ron were going up there. Unless he had something he couldn't do, or for some reason he couldn't go, he wasn't going, but I was going. We were doing everything we could. I had to go. And I got the talking to from Zach about being oppressed, and it's like, no, I'm not oppressed. I'm not oppressed. I was obsessed. Mm-hmm. And there is, I believe there's a difference. The thing is there was something that was telling me I needed to be there. There was a reason. And the reason came out to me after this movie was filmed. And I'm not allowed to say anything else after that. So after the movie comes out, I can tell you. But at this point, there was a reason that I was there.
All right. Well, we'll have to have you on then after the movie comes out. Hey, Denise, we only have about 2 minutes left in the show, so I want you to let our audience know where they can find you online, and again, mention the Spook Show Con.
We'll do that. Everybody, SpookShowCon is August 17th. Go to SpookShowCon.com and get your tickets, or to find out more about it. If you need to find me, you can find me on Facebook on the Paranormal Pride, and it's the original Paranormal Pride. You can find me. It's got my picture on there, not Chip and Adam. So make sure you find that. And then there's also Denise Pridemore and the Paranormal Pride Facebook pages. And my show's on Monday nights at 7:00 Central Time on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. I know that's the same time as Sean Whittington's show. So you guys, I do have archives so that you guys can still listen to Sean live. So.
All right. And Spook Show Con starts this Saturday at what time?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. So you got to get up early.
Yep. It's a 500-mile drive for us. So we're leaving tomorrow.
All right. Well, Denise, thank you very much for being with us tonight on Exploring the Bizarre. Fascinating program, and just so happy that you could be with us tonight.
Thank you.
All right. So everyone out there, next week we've got another exciting guest. Hopefully Tim Beckley will escape from Area 51 or the basement. So tune in next week. I'm Tim Swartz. Thank you very much for listening to myself and Denise, and we'll see you again this time next week.
You've been listening to Exploring the Bizarre with hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz. They're taking back the night by jetting non-stop across the cosmos in search of the truly bizarre and totally unexplained, with you as their co-pilot. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on Exploring the Bizarre and hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz, check out their KCOR Digital Radio Network page. Follow their YouTube channel at MRUFO 1100. Exploring the Bizarre.